Hi, I'm Bruno Aziza, and in this installment of our series with Ayres, the author of Super Crunchers and Carrots and Sticks, we're going to talk about incentives. So if you manage teams today, this is the episode for you.
Often to craft the best incentives, you're going to want to have layers of accountability. We care about what other people know about us.
Ian, thank you very much for your time. A lot of the work that you do is around incentives. Can you give an analogy to help our audience understand a little bit of your work around that specific problem?
Sure. Well, let me start with my dog here, Chubby.
How does Chubby relate to incentives here?
Well, when Chubby, when my daughter was 7 years old, she looked me straight in the eyes and she said, "Dad, I desperately want a dog." We never had a pet. And I looked her back in the eyes and said, well, Anna, you can have a dog if you publish an article in a peer-reviewed journal of my peers.
And how old was your daughter, and how did that work out for her?
Well, she was 7 years old at the time, and she really, really wanted a dog. I actually didn't want to have a dog, but I said, look, if she was willing to put in the time, and then I worked with her and her brother for 2.5 years, teaching them statistics and then helping them, and we ended up co-authoring a statistical study that got accepted by a journal of the American Statistical Association. It's called Chance, and matter of fact, I think we have a copy around here somewhere.
I think it's over there, actually.
Yeah, and I still remember the day that we got the acceptance, and we went out looking for a dog, and this is Chebyshev, Chubby, named after Chebyshev's inequality, and this is an incentive right here that got my daughter to work and learn statistics.
So what do we learn about this example? Obviously, you spend a lot of time yourself, but what can leaders learn about this example?
Well, it's nothing deeply profound. A lot of people already know that carrots and sticks, contingent punishments, contingent rewards can affect behavior.
And so now often when you think about incentives, we think about positive and negative incentives, but more importantly, we think about the issue around what to measure and what to reward for. Should I measure for the outcome, or should I measure and reward for the activities leading to the outcome? What's your point of view on that?
Well, it's really, as in many questions of incentives, it's not an either-or question. It's going to be a both-and, that you often, to craft the best incentives, you're going to want to have layers of accountability, and some of these layers will be the inputs, they'll be the behaviors, and sometimes you'll want to also incentivize the outcomes.
Do you have a specific example?
Sure. Yeah, I have a friend who is really concerned that she couldn't put money at risk to lose weight, to make a substantive weight loss commitment contract. She just would be scared that she'd lose the money. And I responded to her, well, don't make the commitment over losing weight. Make it over getting on the scale. That shouldn't be too scary. You can at least commit to get on the scale and be mindful of what's happening to your weight loss. And you can combine that, though, with a carrot to actually reward yourself if your weight comes down.
So let me break this up a little bit here. What we're talking about is identifying the factors that lead to performance and measuring those or incenting towards those. But also not just thinking about the stick, but also the rewards for those actions. How does this relate in the business context? What are the mistakes that you see organizations make?
Well, they often put too much pressure on a particular individual incentive. And one of the keys is having layers of accountability, that getting the right price is important, but to craft the best and the most useful incentives, it's more than just setting the right price. Other people matter. You're really going to want to take your time and craft the incentives, because we care about other people in a lot of different ways. We care about what other people know. And so one of the things that when you craft your incentives, it's not just about what kind of rewards or punishments people get, but in the business context, you really want to pay attention to who's going to find out about whether you succeed or not. And this is something that I really learned from writing this book, Carrots and Sticks. I went into it thinking, gosh, you put money at risk, and you get yourself a referee who gets to decide whether you succeed or not. And I think more and more it's very important that you make this public so that other people are going to learn about whether or not you succeeded, because we care a lot about whether our friends and our coworkers find out about our successes or our failures.
And so that's the principle of a support system almost for your performance. Do you have an example of something that can guide our audience?
Yes, I was talking to a guy who made a commitment to go to church on Sunday, and I was interviewing him, and he did everything right, I thought. He put money at risk. He had his girlfriend as his referee, but as I was talking to him, he said this worked well for several months, and then something came up, and I didn't go to church, and then I lied to Stick, and my girlfriend lied for me too, and his referee, and this was a perfect example where his mistake, I think, was not in signing up supporters who would be automatically notified about his reports. If he had signed up and had his priest and a couple members of his vestry learn about what his reports were, he wouldn't have lied. He probably would have ended up going to church. So that when you are thinking about incentives and thinking about reports, make sure that there's a kind of safety in numbers. We care about what other people know about us, and make sure that the right kinds of people learn about whether you succeed or not.
So there are two things here we're taking away, this idea of the layers of responsibility and multiple dimensions of incentives, bringing the carrots and the stick, and also your support system and picking the right people on that support system. Now, a lot of the work that you're referencing to here reminds me of Dan Pink's work on incentives, and I don't want to simplify it, but often the message is, well, incentives don't work. How do you think about it in relationship to Dan Pink's work?
Well, Dan Pink and also Dan Ariely, they both have some pretty cool experiments suggesting that incentives can sometimes backfire, particularly on issues of creativity. Pink calls these challenges of the 21st century. And I think he has a fair point, but there are many problems that we might think of just the 20th century, of just willpower. People are making the wrong healthcare choices, and people procrastinate. Sometimes just having stick-to-itiveness is important, even on creativity tasks. At Yale Law School, I have some students who have trouble writing papers. They have terrible writer's block. And yes, there is some creativity involved in this, but there's also a need to just get off the dime and start doing stuff. And we've had people on Stick that have used things to write their PhD thesis. I've had a folk songwriter that used Stick and a commitment contract to help be actually creative in writing folk songs.
So you've referred to a Stick as the place where you want people to go to. Tell us more about the website and what they can do up there.
Sure. Well, it's Stick, STICKK.com, and it's a commitment store where you can set a goal and then choose any kind of goal. There's an open text box where it says, I commit to, and then you can fill in the goal, and then you can choose the layer of accountability. If you want, we'll nag you. You can choose to put money at risk. You can choose a referee. And you can choose where your money will go if you fail. And some people choose to have it go to charity, but it's a very popular option now. Many people choose an anti-charity, a charity. It's a charity you don't support. So our English soccer fans sometimes choose a football club that they can't stand, and this is a great way. It's another way that we care about other people, because we care about who's going to be helped or hurt by our successes or failures. And In the United States, the George W. Bush Presidential Library is our favorite, is our most popular anti-charity of the moment.
This concept of anti-charity is actually an interesting one inside any organization. Sometimes you might reward for the wrong things, but having the bad consequence of something happen could be an interesting one. Well, thank you again very much for the time, and until next time, I'm Bruno Aziza.